Welcome, everyone. It's wonderful to see you all this afternoon at the 7th Annual Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences Diversity Celebration. Um, of course, we were really hoping that we would be able to do this event in person, but I think everyone is aware that we are still facing major challenges with regard to COVID. So we'll look forward next year to all of us being together, hopefully celebrating in the new Nancy Friend Pritzker building. Um, and In the meantime, I have to say, delighted to see the number of folks that signed up despite Zoom fatigue to join the celebration today virtually. So no doubt this has been an incredibly difficult year for everyone, but as I think I say at the start of pretty much every meeting we have together, thank you. Thanks for everything that you've done. Our people across the board at every site and every role have really stepped up to meet unprecedented challenges. And it's really been tremendously gratifying for the entire leadership team. So we thank you and can't thank you enough, quite literally, for the work that you've been doing. And specifically with regard to this celebration and the diversity, equity, and inclusion missions, this also is a remarkable department when putting together notes about thanking people. It literally is almost impossible to come up with a complete list of all of the extraordinary work that's going on across the department in these areas, because so many of you have this as really a driving mission in all of your work. So I do want to highlight some folks in particular. I'm going to say that knowing that I'm going to be missing people who are doing and making extraordinary contributions. But I do have to start by thanking Christina Mantell and Natalie Todd and Edwin Flores, who did a tremendous amount of work in putting this event together. And I also very much want to thank the Diversity Committee Advisory Council. This is made up of several of our vice chairs, as well as Nikki Bush, who, as I think all of you know, is a prior recipient of the UCSF Chancellor's Award for the Advancement of Women. This year has been marked by, I think, a pretty extraordinary amount of work in the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion, even relative to our baseline, where I think I'm grateful how active we are. But this year in particular, I think one of the most critical efforts has been our work to look inward with regard to systemic and anti-Black racism in the department. And for this reason, I did want to thank again the work of the Black Study Group and Michelle Porsche and Chris Bartley and Jackie Ward, who led that committee, all of their liaisons, everyone who participated in that, whether it was filling out a questionnaire or participating in one of our focus groups or being a liaison to the Black Study Group. It was incredibly important, detailed, and nuanced report that truly is informing not only a conversation about anti-Black racism and racism in general in our department, but really helping us set on a course of action. So we're focused on addressing the issues raised in the report. And I'm deeply grateful to all of you who are participating in the ongoing work groups that are developing recommendations to work towards a more equitable and welcoming environment for everyone in the department. And we do look forward to having a true action plan by the beginning of the fall this year, both for short-term, medium-term, and long-term agenda. In the same vein, again, I'm so hesitant about calling out individual folks, but going to do it anyway. I think also want to recognize Susan Mefford and Michaela Payne, leaders of the Caregiver Task Force, produced, again, a tremendously important, valuable assessment and set of recommendations regarding issues facing our caregivers during the pandemic and beyond, much more broadly. This is already serving to drive forward an action and implementation plan in the department. Again, there are so many people. I want to thank all of you who have who are working at your local sites. I know there's a tremendous amount of work going on in our community-based programs at ZSFG, at the VA, as well as at UCSF Health and Langley Porter, and we're incredibly grateful for that and want to support that in every way we can. Let me end these brief remarks just by saying how grateful I am to have a department filled with people who are not only determined to do good, but who tend to run towards what other people may see as insurmountable challenges. So thank you. And thank you for being here today. I'm going to now turn this over to Dr. Mangurian, our wonderful vice chair for diversity, equity, inclusion, who, as she has over the last 7 years, done a remarkable job in helping to coordinate activities, not only within the department, but across the university more broadly and into the community. And she's going to introduce Dr. Kamara Phyllis Jones, the 2021-22 UCSF Presidential Chair Award recipient. And we are so grateful. Our speaker today, I've really been looking forward to this. And Dr. Jones, thank you so much for your remarkable work and for agreeing to join us today for this celebration. So Dr. Mangurian, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Matt, and thank you for recognizing so many people who've done such incredible work over the last year. I wanted to welcome everyone here. I especially want to welcome those new to their community. Can folks who are new to our community maybe raise your hands or kind of show in some way if you're new to the community? There's some people, I think, that are... I see a couple. So welcome. Again, as Matt said, we normally would have been in the faculty house and eventually in our new building. But you know, things haven't been normal and it hasn't been normal for quite some time. But I'm really glad we get to celebrate together, and I'm glad that some of you at some of the sites are getting to enjoy some cupcakes that I know we sent to the train to some of our sites. I also know, you know, a purpose of this meeting is really for us to be together. And it's important for us to be together right now when things have been very hard, and also to express gratitude. And both of those things we know, both in our hearts and through science, help us. And so I want to say that I'm very grateful about many things. I'm very grateful nationally that there was a first woman who was Black and Asian American and is her vice president, that Juneteenth is now a national holiday, that structural racism is actually discussed commonly in academia and in traditional and social media. And actually today I found out that the ACGME is also considering expanding some paid family leave for trainees. So things are moving in a really positive direction. I also think at UCSF, it's been incredible, as Matt mentioned. UCSF has really continued to move forward as it has for a long time on our efforts, including anti-racism and gender equity with the Faculty Family Friendly Initiative and Child Dependent Care Task Force. And I'm most proud just because of who, you know, what we're trying to do today of the work that's been done here, whether it's a Black Study Group, the Caregiver Task Force, or our Diversity Committee. It's required all of us to work together. And I really feel like all of the activities that we do, big or small, really take us towards our shared goal. And so today it's about celebrating our people, having you guys understand what our Diversity Committee has been up to, and building community. So we're going to start with Dr. Jones, and then we're going to be doing some recognition and awards, discuss activities, and then have a breakout session. And if you stay till the very end, you'll be entered in a raffle to a place that I'll describe more later, but you'll basically get a raffle to win a $50 gift card at a minority-owned business. And so I also, I'm similarly grateful to Christina Mantell, Natalie Todd, Edwin Flores, Nicholas Raznowski, and Gigi Lopez, and all of the members of the Diversity Committee. Okay, now for our keynote speaker. So Dr. Kamara Phyllis Jones is an internationally recognized physician, epidemiologist, and public health leader with expertise in the impact of racism upon health. She was doing this way before structural racism was a common term in academic medicine and nationally. She's won numerous awards. You can watch her longer TED Talks online. She's had many, many honors, as Matt mentioned. She's the presidential chair at the University of California, San Francisco this year, but in the past, very recent past, has been a visiting fellow at Harvard and at Yale. She's on faculty at Emory University, as well as Morehouse School of Medicine, and is a past president of the American Public Health Association. It is my absolute honor to have you here today and learn from you, Dr. Jones.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mangurian, Dr. State. I love your spirit. I look forward when I can be in the presence of all of you all. I love your spirit of gratitude and acknowledgement and purpose. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be here also at UCSF. But what I'm going to do right now, I have 20 minutes and hopefully I won't even use all 20 of them. Slap my wrist if I go over a little bit. But I wanted to share with you just a little bit of tools for a national campaign against racism. Because when I was president of the American Public Health Association, which was 5 years ago in 2016, I launched at that time our association, our state affiliates, other associations, as many communities as would join us, on a national campaign against racism, where I articulated 3 tasks. The first, to name racism, to say the whole word, right? And as you have noticed in this past year and a half, people have been doing more of that. That's so important, because if you don't name a problem, you'll never be able to get a handle and address the problem. But we need to go beyond naming racism and move to action. So the second of the 3 tasks is to ask the question, how is racism operating here? So I'm going to give you a little idea about asking that question, which is a legitimate question, right? We don't even start with, is racism operating here? Because here we are in the United States of America. You know, racism is foundational in our nation's history. And yet, despite the widespread denial, racism denial in this country, it's has profoundly negative impacts on the health and well-being of the nation. But then after we identify levers for intervention, targets for action by asking that question, then we need to organize and strategize to act, because collective action is power. Collective action propels us and protects us and inspires us and informs us. That's power. So I'm going to, on the first of the naming racism, there are 4 key messages when we say the word racism that we need to be clear about within ourselves and with each other, and as we go out and evangelize, I would say. The first is that racism exists. The second is that racism is a system. The third is that racism saps the strength of the whole society. And the fourth is that we can act to dismantle racism. So the allegory that I'm going to share with you today, it's one of my, suite of allegories, most of which have been based on something I've seen with my own real eyes. This allegory, Dual Reality, a Restaurant Saga, is to communicate the message, racism exists. Based on my experience as a medical student years and years ago, first year I was very diligent, very studious. This Saturday, like most Saturdays, I had awakened early. I was studying, nose in the books. It was mid-afternoon. Some friends came over. Did they distract me from my studies? Oh no. We all got to studying long and hard, and now it was getting late and we were getting hungry, and I had no food in my apartment, which was so typical of me. My friends understood. They said, okay, never mind Kamara, but we are hungry. We need to go into town and find something to eat. So we do. We walk into town and we find a restaurant, and we march in and we sit down, and the menus are presented, and we order our food. And the food is served, and here we are eating. So maybe not the story about racism in a restaurant you thought I was going to tell, but hold on. As I sat there eating with my friends, I looked across the room and I noticed a sign that was a startling revelation to me about racism. So now I've intrigued you, and you're wondering, well, Dr. Jones, what did the sign say? Oh, well, what did the sign say? The sign said open. So now I'm sure I've lost many of you. So let me recap. Here we are sitting in a restaurant eating. I look across the room, I see a sign that says open. Thinking no more about it, I would assume that other hungry people could walk in, sit down, order their food and eat. But because I knew something about the two-sided nature of those signs, I recognized that in fact now the restaurant was closed due to the hour, but firmly closed. And that other hungry people just a few feet away from me, but on the other side of that sign, would not be able to come in, sit down, order their food and eat. And that's when I recognized that racism structures open, closed signs in our society, that racism structures a dual reality. And for those who are sitting inside the restaurant at the table of opportunity eating, and they look up and they see a sign that says open, they don't even recognize that there's a two-sided sign going on, because it is difficult for any of us to recognize a system of inequity that privileges us. So, for example, it's difficult for men to recognize male privilege and sexism. It's difficult for white Americans to recognize white privilege and racism. In fact, it's difficult for all Americans to recognize our American privilege in the global context, although we are living it big time right now with how much of the global COVID-19 vaccine supply we have sequestered in this country. Those on the outside, however, are very well aware that there's a two-sided sign going on, because it proclaims closed to them, but they can look through the window and see people inside eating. So back inside the restaurant, to those who ask, is there really a two-sided sign? Does racism really exist? I say, I know it's hard for you to know when you only see open. In fact, that's part of your privilege, not to have to know. But once you do know, you can choose to act. So it's not a scary thing to name racism. It's actually an empowering thing to name racism. It doesn't compel you to act, but it does equip you to act, so that if you care about those on the other side of the sign, which is an if, but if you do, why, you could even talk to the restaurant owner, who is, after all, inside with you. And you could say, restaurant owner, there are hungry people outside. Why don't you open the door and let them come in? You'll make more money. And oh, the conversations we could have. Or maybe what you'll do is pass some food through the window. Or maybe you'll try to tear down that sign or break through the door. But at least what you won't be doing is sitting back saying, wonder why those people don't just come on in and sit down and eat. Because you'll understand something about the two-sided nature of that sign. So this is the story I share when I have maybe 6 minutes to communicate to a group, especially a group where many people may have their whole life experienced or thought that this was the land of equal opportunity. This is the story I say to say that racism exists, and it is structuring two-sided or multi-sided signs. It's creating a dual or multifaceted reality. And actually, I have started a 3-hour conversation once by asking the following question: how could people who were born inside the restaurant know something about the two-sided nature of the sign? And actually, there are many ways to know. That's why it was a 3-hour conversation. I suggest that you guys might try to remember this story and share it with your family members and all, but also maybe discuss that among yourselves. We don't have time for it right now with me. But let me say this. I am also actually heartened that more people who were born inside the restaurant seem to get a sense that there's something two-sided going on now because of current events last year and this year. There are more people who were born inside the restaurant who are now saying the word racism, putting together the phrases structural racism or systemic racism. This is very important because, as I said, you have to name a problem in order to start trying to seek solutions or address the problem. But here is my fear. If we just put out a statement on our websites or on our Facebook or tweet something or Instagram, however you are doing it, or you just say the word racism, 6 months from now, we may forget why we said that thing, because racism denial is so seductive and so staunchly held that 6 months from now, if we just say a thing, we may fall back into what I describe as the somnolence, the sleepiness of racism denial. So we have to go beyond naming racism to action. We need to tear down the sign. And of course, racism is not just a sign, it's the sign, it's the door, it's the lock. We have to dismantle the lock, take the door off the hinges, because once we start acting, we will not forget why we are acting. So that was a big chunk of the time that I've been allotted, but I just want to give you some quick hit it and keep on going. Other aspects to equip you with the basic skeletal tools for a national campaign against racism. I said naming racism is the first thing. I've been talking about it, said the word, I don't know, 10, 15 times. Here's my definition of racism. When I say the word racism, I'm clear that I'm talking about a system. So I'm not talking about an individual character flaw or a personal moral feeling or even a psychiatric illness, as some people have suggested, even though it can manifest in all of those ways. But I am instead talking about a system of power, a system of doing what? Of doing two things, of structuring opportunity and assigning value. On what basis is the opportunity structured? On what basis is the value assigned? Based on the social interpretation of how one looks, which is what we call race. And what are the impacts of this system? Well, when we do recognize racism exists, then we usually go to the understanding that it is unfairly disadvantaging some individuals and communities. But it shouldn't take any of us long to recognize that every unfair disadvantage has its reciprocal unfair advantage. So racism is also unfairly advantaging other individuals and communities. And even beyond that duality, racism is sapping the strength of the whole society through the waste of human resources. And even though I can sometimes spend 10 minutes on a slide, I just want to lift up two things. First is that some people, we often don't talk about the unfair advantage associated and conferred by this system, by racism, because it makes some people, especially some people who are living as white, uncomfortable. I used to almost apologize about that. I'd say, oh, well, if you feel uncomfortable, shake it off, stay with me, I'll tell you more stories. I don't do that anymore. What I say now is if you feel uncomfortable imagining or acknowledging unfair advantage associated with this system of racism, I encourage you to lean into that discomfort, because I have come to recognize that for all of us, the edge of our comfort is our growing edge. But the other thing I need to say is that racism, that fact that it saps the strength of the whole society, of the three impacts, that's the one that I would lift up most vigorously right now, because we need more people, more media stories about how racism is sapping the strength of the whole society, more data collection, more conversations around our various dinner tables so that more of us are filled with a sense of urgency to dismantle the system and put in its place a system in which all people can know and develop to their full potentials. I said that the second of the three tasks is this question, how is racism operating here? Which is a legitimate question, because racism is not a cloud or a miasma we can't get a handle on. It is a system with identifiable and addressable mechanisms which are in our structures, policies, practices, norms, and values, which, as it turns out, are actually the elements of decision-making. Structures are the who, what, when, and where of decision-making, especially who's at the table and who's not, what's on the agenda and what's not. Policies are the written how of decision-making. Practices and norms are the unwritten how of decision-making, often harder to discern, and values are the why. And I encourage us to take this question, how is racism operating here with us everywhere, in my child's daycare, in this department, in San Francisco, in the US, wherever. And I have used that to generate possible levers for intervention, targets for action. Every time I go and talk about a different topic, I can't share it for your department right now because I have limited time, but you guys can do that. So now I said the first task is name racism. The second to ask, how is racism operating here, to identify levers for intervention, targets for action. I'm going to close with the third task, which is to organize and strategize to act. And I know you guys have already been involved in acting, but just going back to that image I shared from the dual reality, what can we do today in big strokes? Well, I think that we need to actively look for evidence of two-sided signs. We need to ask ourselves, is there something differential going on here by race or language or immigration status or gender identity? Is there something differential going on by immigration status or zip code or urban, rural, or religion? All of these things, all of the ways that our society slices and dices us and then differentially distributes resources and population and values the population. And we need to look not only at outcomes, but also at opportunity structures. We need to burst through our bubbles of experience to experience our common humanity. All of us are in a bubble of experience. It includes our families, our communities, our jobs. Some of the bubbles are big with thin soap bubble boundaries. Some are smaller with thicker plexiglass boundaries. Some of our bubbles are tinted. Some are polarized, but whatever kind of bubble any of us is in, most often we do not know that just across town, there are people who are just as kind, funny, generous, hardworking, as smart as we are, who are living in very different circumstances, We need to create opportunities as individuals and as institutions, bubble bursting opportunities to burst through our bubbles and experience our common humanity on the other side of town so we can start building common cause. We need to be interested in the stories of others, believe the stories of others, and then join in the stories of others. And I'm so heartened that over the mobilization, especially after the murder of Mr. George Floyd and so many others, that more people have been doing just that. We need to develop a sensitivity to see the absence of who is not at the table, what is not on the agenda, what policies are not in place that, if put in place, could bring about social justice. We need to reveal inaction, lack of action in the face of need, because indifference and inaction in the face of need are how structural racism very often shows up these days. But all the power is not just on the part of those who are inside the restaurant. Those of us on the outside need to know our power. We need to recognize that action is power, and especially that collective action is power. So I hope I was timely. I really appreciate the invitation, and I know you guys have so much more work that you need to do. So thank you for inviting me.
You were incredible, Dr. Jones. Thank you so much. This was just remarkable. And it's just a little taste. We're one of the first departments, I think, to get the incredible Dr. Jones to present to us. And we're already working on getting you to be coming to our grand rounds. So I just really am grateful for your time. So thank you. All right, so now I'm going to turn to kind of recognizing some of the different folks who've won some awards or hold different leadership roles within our department. I'm going to start with some folks in our department who actually are holding, and I apologize, my PowerPoint's a little bit off, who are holding leadership roles across the university, not just in our department here. So Dr. Maja Jackson-Trish is the UCSF Assistant Vice Chancellor for Diversity and Outreach and UCSF Health Executive Advisor for DEI. And Dr. Ashley Hubbard is the inaugural Director for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion at the VA, San Francisco VA Health Center. I'm wondering, I think maybe they're here now. Hopefully they can like raise their hands or something, but I'm just so grateful that they're done this work. I also am incredibly grateful that one of our currently postdoctoral fellows, but soon to be faculty members, I believe as of October 1st, Dr. Maggie Del Cid is one of the 2021 Watson Scholar Award recipients. This is an award that is given to outstanding faculty across the School of Medicine. It's only given to 9 faculty a year, and this is a real honor because of the just really outstanding work that she does. And then the other folks I want to recognize are both Dr. Carrie Ann Pinnard and the incoming Dr. Martha Vargas, who are both within our residency training program and are our DEI champions. And in a minute, I'm going to be talking and calling, and I just want to call out, these are the subcommittee members within our diversity committee. And I just want to call out and recognize Dr. Hua and Dr. Rubinov, who are the co-chairs of recruitment and retention, Dr. Vogelmeyer and Fryer for research, for the subcommittee on research, Dr. Hubbard and Santiago for education. It was in the last year, Peter Uresti and Kiati Brambat, Christina Mantell and Natalie Todd for communications, and in health equity, Jennifer Lee, Maria Hernandez Dimler, and Will Martinez. Okay, so I'm trying to speed through too a little bit so we can enjoy some folks. I'm gonna turn to, I believe, Susan Vogelmeyer, who I think is going to give out our annual award in mentoring.
Right, thank you very much. This is the Underrepresented Minority Research Mentoring Award, which was put together by Susanna Fryer and the rest of the Diversity Committee's Research Task Force to recognize that research mentoring was a vital part of maintaining the robust diverse pipeline that we need to achieve and inclusive academic department. This contribution can sometimes happen outside of direct supervisory role, so we wanted to find a way to recognize this explicitly. This year there is a tie, so we'll be giving out 2 awards. The 2 awards, I'm very pleased to present the 2 award recipients. That's Dr. Marina Tula-Shams and Dr. Christina Mangurian. Each of them, congratulations, both. Each of them has mentored an extensive cadre of URM researchers. I just want to say that of Marina, nominators stated that she has an unwavering commitment to the mentorship of underrepresented minority students, residents, and faculty. She's a caring, hardworking, and intelligent individual who has engendered equity and social justice in her trainees' work and fueled their passion towards meaningful research to better serving URM communities. Her outstanding dedication and effectiveness as a mentor included deep conversations about discrimination, bias, and hardship that helped trainees foster a sense of belonging. So congratulations, Marina. And then of Christina, who is obviously our the chair of our diversity committee and of course the vice chair for diversity and health equity. Nominators noted that for her entire career at UCSF, Dr. Mangurian has been deeply committed to the mentoring and furthering the research careers of underrepresented minorities. She has worked tirelessly to recruit, retain, and further the research careers of URM psychiatrists, psychologists, and researchers, and who would not have been able to successfully navigate a career in academia without her mentorship. She's provided numerous underrepresented scholars the needed support, platform, and resources to enhance research skills, expand their networks, and work on interdisciplinary projects that meaningfully impact the health of minoritized populations. So it was with great pride that we bestow this year's URM Mentoring Award on these 2 exemplary individuals, Dr. Marina Tula-Shams and Dr. Christina Mangurian. Thank you. Congratulations.
Well, thank you all. Marina, I'd love to give you an opportunity if you'd like to say anything. I'm just so honored to be in your presence with this, and it's just very, you're incredible. And so please.
Likewise, like if I'm going to be tied with like the vice chair of DEI for research mentorship, like, come on now. So, and honestly, it's just like such a serious honor. And to hear those words, I just got so choked up. And I really, every day of the work is learning from all of you. And it is just, it's a huge honor to be in this department and to also just have the opportunity to do the work and be supported to do the work by everyone. So thank you. And yeah, just thanks so much.
It's really, I'm in complete agreement. I'm getting a lot. I think we're both getting lots of little messages, and it's really, I know I shared this with Marina. It's what I love most at work. So I'm just really, it's all about the future. So I'm just really deeply grateful. So then let's, since I don't especially like the attention on myself like this, let's switch roles to something else. I'd love to have updates from the diversity committee subcommittee leads. So we're going to be hearing, this is the part of the program where you guys hear, what are we doing? We're going to take the curtain away a little bit and talk about what folks are doing. And so I think we're going to hear first from Recruitment and Retention Task Force.
Sorry, hi everybody, good evening. Is everyone able to see the presentation that we have loaded? I promise we won't have a lot of slides. We just want to make sure that folks can see folks who are part of the task force so that folks can kind of see it. Good to see everybody. I'm one of the task force co-leads with Danielle Rubinoff. Here are our members of our wonderful task force, and we've done a lot this past year and have really appreciated everyone that's been part of our committee. Aaron, my three, myself, Vilma, Danielle, Kristen, Lauren, Sam, and Joe. We've gotten a lot done and really just grateful to work with such incredible folks working with recruitment and retention.
Yeah, and just to talk about what we've done this past year, our task force is involved in supporting the candidates for the Watson Award. And we're just so incredibly excited that the very deserving Dr. Del Cid was selected to receive this award. And it's going to help support the expansion of her research program, which focuses on understanding mental health disparities in vulnerable youth populations. We wanted to acknowledge the Caregiver Task Force, which developed those recommendations for supporting caregivers during the pandemic and of course after. Also acknowledge Drs. Christina Mangurian and Alicia Lieberman for their listening tour, where they held a series of lunch meetings for women faculty in the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences to understand barriers to women's advancement in academia. And then also related to the work that we do as part of this subcommittee, I've been holding a monthly Gender Equity Works in Progress group for female faculty across various departments, where we give and receive peer support and mentorship for ongoing gender equity projects. And if this is something that anybody is interested in, please reach out to me. We are always looking for new people to join the group.
And congratulations again, Dr. Del Cid, for your awesome honor there. We're looking forward to this next year, and just, oh goodness, sorry about that. Just some ideas and goals that we have for the year ahead. Some great ideas from our task force include to continue to build community pipelines to improve the recruitment and retention of individuals who are underrepresented in medicine. We also want to improve our understanding of reasons for why folks leave UCSF in terms of whenever they do, and getting information about themes that we can help to better understand and then recruit, and then be able to improve upon those processes. Continue to standardize how family leave is taken into consideration into account in advancement applications. Very important task there. Continue to work on equity issues related to how psychologists are classified. Thank you to a couple of our task force members for leading that effort. And then of course, continue to modify and improve the Watson Award standard operating procedures. We've been really lucky and grateful to have 3 award winners for the Watson in the past 3 years, which is really incredible. So we'd love to continue to support our nominees and think of continued ways to improve that process. And as Dr. Rubinoff mentioned, our Gender Equity Works in Progress group, continuing that. So thanks for listening.
And thank you both, Will and Danielle, for your hard work. And we do need more members. So please, if you're interested in this, please do let me or Edwin know. Okay, next we've got education with Ashley Hubbard, as I mentioned, the new leadership role within the VA, and Lydia Santiago.
Hi, everyone. So really wonderful to be here, and I appreciate the acknowledgement of this incoming role. And my work related to the diversity committee is on the education task force with Lydia Santiago, as just was mentioned, and we just got started recently with the task force. So we have a lot to do in terms of kind of filling in the work that has previously been done. And so I just wanted to highlight some of the work that was done over the past year, and I can talk a little bit briefly about what we hope to do in the coming year. And so last fall of 2020, the Evelyn Lee Lecture was co-sponsored by the Department of Neurology, UCSF Health and Human Rights Initiative, the UCSF Latinx Center of Excellence, and the ZSFG Latinx Task Force. It was a very wonderful lecture that took place, and a lot of work went into that to making that happen. In addition, there was a keynote for the International Women's Day that occurred in March, as well as representation on the UCSF Faces of Ability panel. And Christina was one of those who participated in that. There's also been a lot of work to see how we can continue to support the residency training program Cultural Area of Distinction seminar, and to continue to support encouraging both faculty and leadership in attending the UCSF Differences Matter DEI Champion training. And so as Lydia, myself, and the rest of the task force move forward, one of the things that we're hoping to continue is to, of course, continue to have individuals participate in the UCSF Differences Matter training, so continuing to encourage that participation. We also are really interested in seeing how we can continue to build up grand rounds, and even thinking about the idea of being able to expand to have a series that can provide some experiential opportunities to kind of build on some of the didactics that are currently in place in training. So we're really excited to kind of explore that potential avenue, and to see how we can partner with some of the other grand rounds that take place to be able to collect information and grow, as well as, of course, planning the continuing to help support the 2021 Evelyn Lee lecture. So we are really interested in continuing to grow our team and to bring in as many ideas and thoughts about how we can kind of expand education and training. And so we look forward to anyone who's interested in supporting these efforts.
Outstanding. Thank you so much, Ashley and Lydia. And as I said before, for Peter and Kiati, I'll put in some data points that really was from Kiati and Peter's work last year about how many of our faculty completed the training. That we were over 60% of psychiatry faculty have completed the DEI training, and 88% of our executive leadership have completed the training. And I think just 2 more remain, and they are both enrolled. And so we're going to have 100% of our leadership too, which is very important, which is great. And then I'm going to switch to research. So I think we heard from Dr. Vogelmeyer, it might be her, or Dr. Fryer, Susanna Fryer.
It's me again, Susanna, my co-chair, who's away this week. And then the rest of our committee, Joanna Folk, Lauren Hack, Kaya Lewin, Rachel Noshany, and David Pennington. I hope I'm not forgetting anyone. But things that we've been working on in the past year include kind of updating our website. And so I would encourage people to consider visiting that. We have some resources there on anti-racism practices, particularly running an anti-racist lab, some fun posters that say we believe in etc. Science is real, love is love, Black Lives Matter, etc. And then one of the things I want you to also think about is that we have some links to grants and diversity supplements. And one of the goals, I think, of the university as a whole and of the department in particular is to increase the number of NIH diversity supplements. So I want to have all of you think about that. And also just to bring it to your attention that if you are hiring someone, considering hiring somebody who plans to go on to a PhD in research, that if you hire them as something like a SRA or junior specialist, they can qualify for a diversity supplement. So that would help you to hire them, help you to pay for them. If that's in a basic science department, you can look to the UCSF Propel program that actually has a whole curriculum for them, but it doesn't have to be through that. But it has to be something that they're planning to go on to a PhD in research. So to just keep that in mind. So it doesn't even have to be the trainees that we're sort of normally thinking about. And because young people don't seem to use websites anymore, we are considering trying to put together some social media with Nicholas, who's been very helpful on the website, of course, a social media like a Twitter, Instagram, something, because we all get some things that we'd like to pass on to other people. So that's one of the things that we'd kind of like to do in the coming year. The other thing I just want to make sure that everyone does, I know that the Grand Round speakers nominations just happened, but to ask people to particularly nominate folks from diverse backgrounds for our Grand Rounds series, and we'll be working with the education committee as well as kind of having a list. We do have a link to Anne's list, which is a bunch of women researchers, a little bit more systems neuroscience in that case, but we'll keep a nice list for more diverse speakers. So that's some of our plans for the next year.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Susan. And I put a little bit of information for those of you who are interested in the diversity supplements in the chat. There's some information university-wide on that too. And I'm really grateful. I know that you really want to create the Anne's list for psychiatry, and that would be such a wonderful thing and resource to have. So please do, if you know of inspirational folks that you'd like to have here, please do send our way. Okay, next up is the communication subcommittee. I think it's going to be Christina Mantell.
Hi, everybody, and thank you for being here at our second virtual diversity event. So hopefully next year it will be in person. But first of all, I'd like to acknowledge and thank my fellow communication task force members who mostly are on this call. My co-chair is Natalie Todd, Joyce Dorado, Bridget Leach, Emily Lee, and Nicholas Rosnowski. And I'd like to give a special shout out to Edwin. I think he's an honorary member as far as how much he helped with this, putting this together, Edwin. Come on, we got to get more staff to join the diversity committee, right? Represent inclusive and diverse. So our goal as a communications task force is to disseminate diversity related information to the department via quarterly newsletters and this annual diversity celebration. Our Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences diversity newsletter is published to the whole community and is a quarterly newsletter. And one of them just went out last week. We are looking to diversify and become more inclusive in what we're putting in this newsletter. And so we recently, and just with the last newsletter, we are asking for the whole community, the whole DPBS community for their input via a Qualtrics link that we're going to be sending out. And then we will see if the submission is deemed appropriate for the newsletter. And then we will put it in the newsletter and send it out. And so just this last time, we got so many new different things that were multilingual and grand rounds that we didn't know about. And so it was really a way to encourage everyone to participate and give information that they would like to have included. So please include that and look for that link. What did I want to say? Last year we planned and had our first virtual diversity event where we had 110 participants, and we collected data from the attendees on what they would like to see different to make our community more socially just and inclusive. And that was presented to the executive committee. This year, for the breakout rooms, we determined that we needed a little bit more community building because everybody has been working virtually for so long. So we're going to have a little different kind of breakout room session this time. We are also looking for individuals to come join our committee. If you're interested in helping get the word out, please come let us know that you're interested. Edwin Flores, I think, is the lucky recipient of any emails related to people wanting to join the diversity committee, whether it be ours or a different task force. And with that, I will hand it over. Natalie, I'm not sure if you wanted to add anything, but that was it for me. Thanks.
Natalie, did you want to share anything or should I keep going?
No, Christina, you gave a perfect summary. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much, Christina, Natalie, and everyone on that subcommittee. And so last but not least, I'd like to introduce the Health Equity Subcommittee. And so I believe this is led by Jennifer, Marion, and Will. And I think, Will, you're going to be speaking, so you can go.
Yep. Great, thanks, Christina. And thank you everyone for being here. Excited to talk to you a little bit about some of our goals in the Health Equity Subcommittee over the past year. We're one of the newer, if not the newest subcommittee, that's being our first year. And we've, well, first of all, I wanted to thank Jennifer Lee and Miriam Hernandez Dimler, and being my co-chairs and all the members of our committee, trying to do this work in the middle of the pandemic and people putting in their time has been, just wonderful to see kind of the efforts here on health equity, and makes me excited to be able to do this work. And thank you, Christina, for leading us through this. And so we focused on three tasks this year. The first, you may have seen the survey that went out about the use of interpreter services across UCSF sites. So that's a survey that was put together by our subcommittee. We wanted to gather data on what are people's kind of interactions and experiences with the use of interpreter services. What might that look like across sites, and what might some of these needs be? We gathered that information. We were able to analyze it and look at some of the needs, and we're using it for this now upcoming year to help inform kind of a best practice training for providers around the use of interpreter services. Our second goal this year was a landscape assessment of screenings or patient screenings for negative encounters with law enforcement. We really want to understand folks who are in clinics already doing this type of screening, kind of what were barriers and facilitators of doing these screenings. How do we want to think about this? And most importantly, what do we do with this information, how we can use that to improve patient care? So we did that landscape assessment, and it's in progress, what we're doing with it. And our final and third goal was another landscape assessment of the use of patient and community advisory boards across the department, as well as across UCSF, to look at kind of best practices, examples of how to create and maintain both diverse and effective advisory boards. And we are hoping to use that information to then inform, best practices in our department around the creation of these advisory boards. And finally, if folks want any more information on any of these tasks, there's a lot going on, obviously, when time is brief, so I try to keep each of our goals and aims for the subcommittee brief. Feel free to reach out to myself, Jennifer, or Miriam. We'd be happy to talk more, and especially we'd be happy to talk to folks who want to volunteer. We could use more hands on deck for any of these goals that we're working on. So please reach out to us if you're interested. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Will and Jennifer and Marion. And I'll just comment that in both of all three of the issues that you described, whether it's issues interacting with the police or the patient advisory boards, I think the unique thing that we add in psychiatry is thinking about people with lived experience, right? And so they are another group that's discriminated against. And so the intersection of that and race and how that influences interactions with the police is worth examining. Similarly, different patient advisory boards are often set up, but are not inclusive of people with lived experience. And so who are patients and have lived experience with mental illness. So I'm really just so grateful for the work that you all are doing. And also with the translation services. Again, it's just kind of often our patients are just not given as much as they deserve. So I'm very grateful for the work that your committee is doing, recruitment and retention, education, research, and communications. It's a definite team effort. I'm grateful for all of you. So now, yeah. Christina Mantel, right. So now we're gonna switch into our kind of community building activity. And this is important because we don't have the water coolers, right? Zoom is so weird and you don't get to have these nice smaller conversations and run into different people that you might not have run into that day. And so now, thanks to Nicholas Rosnowski, he's gonna randomly put us into several different rooms. And Nicholas, if you wouldn't mind putting in the two questions that we're gonna be doing, that would be great. You'll be in that room for about 20 minutes or something. And, mostly you'll have some facilitators who will be in the room with you. And then again, if you stay till the end, you'll be entered into the raffle, and we'll announce that for the seven winners of the minority-owned businesses gift certificates. Okay. Any questions before I head out? You can put into the chat. All right, let's go on to these different rooms.
Everyone, just a second. We'll wait for everybody to come back from the breakout rooms.
I heard some people being very excited about where they were, and all these videos are now on. This is outstanding. Hopefully you had some fun getting to know people you haven't yet met before or gotten to spend as much time with as you would have liked to. So anyway, are we all in, Nicholas? Do you think?
Yep, we're good to go.
Do you want to announce or let us know?
Yeah, so thank you everyone for staying, and you're now eligible to be part of our fantastic prize drawing. And if I can figure out how to share my screen here, we will get started. So we have 7 $50 gift cards that we are going to give out that can be used at minority-owned businesses. And if you are one of our lucky winners, then Edwin Flores will get in contact with you to let you know how to pick it up and all that good stuff. So I apologize in advance if I mispronounce anyone's name. It's been a long day and I'm reading these blind. So here we go.
That's so cool.
This is very cool. Look at the music.
I love it.
This is great.
All right, congratulations to Sarah, winner number 1.
Awesome.
Congratulations to Barbara.
Yay!
Winner number 3 is Joyce. Fourth winner is Will.
Yay!
Winner number 5 is Veronica.
Woo!
2 more left. Shali, thank you. Number 6. And 1 more ready to go here. If I can get this to work. And last but not least, Kate Margolis. So there you go. 7 winners. Edwin will be in contact with you to arrange all the details. Thanks.
Nicholas, you are amazing. I loved it. And I love the sounds and the cheering. It was just great. And I love that people really like the breakout rooms. You guys have hung in there on a 1.5-hour Zoom meeting unintentionally, so thank you. I hope you had a good time. I'm really grateful to be part of this community, and just a big thanks to everybody for being here today. So yay to all of us, and have a great rest of your night.
Thanks, everybody. I just want to say quickly, my only point of critique for next year's raffle is we need more than a golf clap. There needs to be louder applause from the recording. So.
I was trying to add some in. You might have heard me. I was like, yay. All right, guys. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Christina.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.